Good afternoon, Bitcoiners. It's Mark Berger here, your Bitcoin consultant on Thursday, August 20th, about 11:25 a.m. We're sitting at Bitcoin price of $72,096. Block height 963,323. We've had a big pump in the price over the last 24 hours, which is very exciting news for anyone who holds Bitcoin, and I want to tell you all about that. But first, we have to take care of some more difficult business that I want to let everyone know about. The first is there was another hack of the Trezor marketing database. In other words, it was a hack of the people of the database that contain the names, numbers, email addresses of the people who have bought Trezors over the last 90 days. Why the last 90 days? Because after their last hack of the same marketing database, they instituted a policy where they are destroying all customer data after 90 days. So only in the last 90 days, if you bought a Trezor, your information has been leaked out into the dark web, and you will forever now be receiving spam text messages, spam emails, and things like this. But don't worry, the Trezors are perfectly safe as far as I know. The devices themselves are safe. All that's been hacked is the marketing database, the information that was given when you bought a Trezor. But the real danger here is that you will be receiving now, if you don't already, I mean, I've been receiving them for years, are these spammy emails and very spammy text messages saying, alert, security alert, Trezor has been hacked. You need to take action right now. Click this button. And I'll put an example up on the screen here. These are the real danger. The marketing hack is really not much of a danger, but you don't want to be acting quickly. And you never want to be giving anyone your seed phrase. And what these emails and these text messages are trying to do is trying to get you to give up your text message, trying to give up your seed through text messages, through emails. So never do this. And this is actually the reason why all of my clients, when I advise them to, if I advise them to buy a Trezor, it is when you have the Trezor, when you order the Trezor, first of all, you use an alias email. What is an alias email? That is an email that is not really your email. It simply takes email messages and then forwards it to your real email address. So your real email address is hidden inside the marketing database. You can always delete the the alias email and get rid of it and then dispose of it and then or at least get rid of the forwarding, and then it doesn't nothing goes to your real email address. So that protects your email address. And also for my clients, especially the ones in Europe, I because there's been a lot of $5 wrench attacks, a lot of people attacked in their homes when they are known to be crypto owners or Bitcoin owners. So when you order these devices, try to always send them to your office if you have one. Send them to like a post office box, or send them somewhere else that is not your home, so that if your information does get hacked like this, your personal address, you are then not the target of a physical attack. And that's how we get around this problem. So yes, when we buy things, our information is leaked out there. And because we are Bitcoiners, we have a target on our back. And we have to be aware that there are people who want to know where we live. They want to know all sorts of information about us if they want to make an attack. And we have to harden ourselves about that. Okay, the second thing that I want to talk about, of course, is the failure of the Bitcoin Improvement Proposal 110. If you follow me at all on Twitter, you know I was a big supporter of BIP 110. It was supposed to be activated, or at least signaling for activation, on August 8th. And that was a big disappointment for me because I believe that the current state of Bitcoin is leading it to ruin. Now, not immediately, of course, but this is the slow Fabian strategy that the opponents of Bitcoin are using. They're slowly degrading the properties of decentralization in Bitcoin by making nodes more expensive to run. And if nodes are more expensive to run, only the rich will run nodes. And then eventually only very, very rich people or very rich corporations, businesses, banks, governments will eventually run Bitcoin. Now, that's not going to happen today. It's not even going to happen next year. probably won't even happen in 10 years. However, the failure of BIP 110 to me does change my viewpoint, my long-term viewpoint about really the properties of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is still super secure. Bitcoin is still super scarce. Bitcoin is still very, very difficult to censor. However, these properties are now shown to be not immune forever because Bitcoin needs to be defended by people. Bitcoin is just software. If people don't run software, if people don't defend the principles of Bitcoin, Bitcoin can be degraded, which it has over the last several years. So we have the SegWit upgrade, so-called upgrade. I mean, there were some good things about SegWit in 2017. We got the Lightning Network, which allowed super fast and instantaneous transactions on a layer two above the base layer of Bitcoin. But it also introduced this segregated witness where we could do data stuffing and other things of a spammy nature. The second thing that happened was the activation of Taproot. And Taproot was a soft fork. And myself and everyone else in the community wasn't paying close enough attention to really the vulnerability of Taproot. And Taproot allowed this UTXO stuffing. In other words, these UTXOs are actually the stuff of Bitcoin. They're like your bills in your wallet. And people were creating UTXOs that are worth like a fraction of a cent and just completely degrading the network and wasting the network and then using these worthless UTXOs, to attach other information, other data to it, images and things like this. So we have a bloat of nodes from images in the blockchain, and we also have bloat of the UTXO set. So this makes the requirements for running a node more expensive. We need bigger hard drives, and we need more RAM to store the increased UTXO set. So these are both long-term trends that are not good for the decentralization of Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin is still decentralized, but we've known for a long time that only about 5 or 6 companies control 90% of the hash rate of Bitcoin. In other words, there's about 5 or 6 companies that control the template construction of new blocks. And this has always been a vulnerability in Bitcoin. Now, this vulnerability has been proven to be a problem because us node runners wanted to have this Bitcoin improvement proposal to close the loopholes that was created by SegWit and Taproot, the loopholes that make it more expensive to run a node by allowing spam and other junk and other non-monetary data to go into blockchain. We have seen that it's very hard now to change Bitcoin, which in one way is good, but in another way, we can't fix these problems now. It seems like they're permanently baked into the Bitcoin cake. So, what are some people doing now as a result of the failure to close these loopholes, close these bugs, fix these bugs that have allowed spam on the blockchain and have weakened the decentralization properties of Bitcoin? Well, this has led to an effort now to actually create a hard fork. So a hard fork scares a lot of people because what actually is going to happen is we're going to get a fork. We're going to get actually a new chain of Bitcoin. We're going to be new Bitcoins in addition to the existing chain. We can call it the legacy chain and we can call it the new chain. And the new chain, we're trying to figure out what the name is. You can call it the BIP 110 chain. You can call it the the Luke Dasher chain. Luke is the former core developer who sort of led the BIP 110 charge. You can call it the non-spam chain. But anyway, this new chain is coming around September 1st. And this new chain will close the old loopholes that were opened by SegWit and Taproot. However, it's not going to be the original Bitcoin. It's not going to be the legacy Bitcoin that we all hold today. It's going to be a completely new coin, a hard fork. So anyone who is holding private keys right now of your Bitcoin will not only have your original legacy Bitcoin, when this hard fork happens around September 1st, you will also automatically get the exact same amount of new Bitcoin, whatever that name of that new chain is. You're going to get exactly the same amount that you had in your old chain. It'll just simply come to the new chain. So if you had 100 Bitcoin, you'll now have 100 BIP 110 Bitcoin. So what does this really mean? What this means is that everyone who holds their own private keys right now is going to have a choice. And the choice is, what am I going to do with these new coins, these new Bitcoin-like coins, this new chain coin? What are you going to do with it? Well, you have really just three options. Either you simply hold on to them and you do nothing, or you sell them and you get rid of them. And I guess the third option, since I mentioned three, is that you could buy more of this chain. You could buy more of this Bitcoin. Now, there's no exchange that I know of right now that is going to be buying or selling these coins when they come into existence, but I'm sure a market will come up. And maybe you're thinking, well, if I already hold my private keys, um, what what are these things going to be worth? Well, we really don't know until they start trading on the free market. Here's a guess. In the attempted split on August 8th, the BIP110 chain had about 2% of the hash rate compared to the legacy chain. So let's say the new coin will be worth 2% of the current coin. And if the current coin is now, oh, we're actually up to $72,500. Let's take 2% of, say, $72,000. Well, that's 720 times 2, that's 1440. So maybe we'll say the new coin will be $1,440. So if you have one of the new coin, maybe it'll be worth $1,400. Maybe it's worth holding on to. Maybe it'll go up further, but maybe no one will think it's any value. It's really up for you to decide what the value is. For myself, what am I going to do? I am not going to sell any of those new BIP 110 coins when they come out. I want to have a foothold in this new world of spam-free Bitcoin because it really costs me nothing. It doesn't cost you anything to keep these new coins when they are issued. There's nothing that you have to do. There's no extra storage costs. You don't have to have extra devices. There's really nothing that you have to do. You just hold on to them and you can sit pat and do nothing. And maybe one day in the future, the legacy chain will get filled with illegal material. And then maybe the government will say you're not allowed to run a node anymore on this illegal material chain of Bitcoin. And that might cause the value of Bitcoin to go down. Now, this is all speculation on my part. So don't take this as trading advice, investment advice, financial advice, or anything like this. I'm just talking about scenarios here. What are you going to do, with the new coin? Are you going to hold it? Or are you going to dump it? It's really up to you. And there's really no place to sell it at the moment. And there's no market, so we don't know. But you need to be aware of this because everyone who holds the legacy coin are going to be getting these new coins. So you need to be thinking about this. And the key point here is if you hold your private keys, you then get the new coin. If you don't hold your private keys, you don't necessarily get the new coin. So for example, BlackRock, who runs the largest ETF of Bitcoin, the IBIT on the ticker symbol. You can buy what you think is called Bitcoin by buying IBIT. But in the prospectus of IBIT, it explicitly says if there's any kind of chain split of Bitcoin, if there are any new coins created, if there's any airdrop, which is what is sometimes called when you get a chain split and you just get airdrop new coins, any of these new coins that are created from a hard fork, a soft fork, anything, BlackRock doesn't have to give them to you. It's at their sole discretion. And my guess is they thought about this well in advance and knew the history of Bitcoin. And there have been several hard forks. And it is totally up to their discretion what they're going to do, with these new coins. What are they going to do with their new coins? And they currently hold something like 500,000 Bitcoin. So they hold 500,000 Bitcoin. They're going to get 500,000 new BIP110 coins or 500,000 new spam-free coins, something like that. And you don't have any say in it because that's the prospectus. That's what it said in this prospectus. And you agreed to it when you bought the IBIT. So this is another reason why you want to hold your private keys. In addition to all the security and all the self-sovereignty and all the freedom that you get from holding your private keys, you get the airdrops when they come from time to time. And we're going to get another airdrop here. And you get to decide what's going to happen to these new coins. You can sell them or you can hold on to them. So if you're wondering about, anything about this airdrop that's coming or hard forks or soft forks or how to even secure your private keys, how to get a hold of your private keys, please contact me. This is what I help people do. I help people take control of your Bitcoin, get your private keys so that you can then get the airdrop when it comes. You can then sell it or do whatever you want with it. This is what I help people do. I help you understand Bitcoin and become truly free and sovereign in Bitcoin. free consultation for anyone who is not a client already. 30 minutes, sign up on my website. And if you are a client, you're always welcome to schedule a new call with me, and we can discuss the options that you're going to have, because we're all going to have to figure this out. And I don't have all the details. It's being worked out. The new coin, by the way, is going to use a completely new algorithm. It is not SHA-256, which is the algorithm that has been hashing new blocks the miners are using. So the new coin is going to completely leave the old mining system. And for myself, I have a pretty significant investment in the legacy coins mining system. I have several miners that are hashing on the existing chain. So for me, I still have a vested interest in the old system because I'm mining. So I'm still tethered in a way to the old system. I'm not going to completely throw away the new system, but the old system. But the new system is going to be using a different algorithm. So anyone who's mining on the old system, they can't use their miners. We can't use our miners to create the new coins. It has to be a completely new set of hardware to be mining new coins. So this is a very interesting development. We've never had anything really quite like this. The new coin will have all of the old properties of Bitcoin. It'll be proof of work. It'll be private key cryptography. It'll be censorship resistant. Basically everything from the old Bitcoin, except we're closing these loopholes from SegWit in 2017 and Taproot in 2021 to eliminate spam. And we're going to move forward in a spam-free way as much as we can. Now, spam can't be eliminated 100%, but we're putting enormous barriers up to the spammers if they want to try to get over the walls that we're building into the new Bitcoin chain that is coming up. So that's very exciting development. So any questions, please reach out to me. Let's now talk about price. Let's talk about the fun stuff, right? So yesterday at about this time, about 24 hours ago, we were trading around $64,000, and now we're at 72,000 something. So we've seen a 10, 12, whatever, 15% rise in 24 hours, which is some of the greatest days in Bitcoin. If you're a Bitcoiner, you just love days like this. And we haven't had a 24-hour period like this probably since winter of 24. So probably a long time, probably 2 years or something like that, 2.5 years, a very long time. So it's excellent to see. In my opinion, everyone who was calling for 50,000 Bitcoin, 45,000 Bitcoin, 30,000 Bitcoin, that is not going to happen now. I totally take that off the table. I put the likelihood of that as 1 in 1,000 chance right now. I don't think that's going to happen. Now, are we going to go straight to $100,000 from here, the price? I don't think so either. I think this is a great move. To me, this confirms that the bear market is over. We've had a brutal bear market here for the last 8 or 9 months, basically the entire year of 2026. But this doesn't mean we're going straight up from here. I mean, after such a large move like this, Bitcoin generally takes a break. Any asset will take a break. So we could go a little higher from here. We could maybe even go up to 75,000 in the next day or so. But then I think we're going to go back to test the previous ceiling. The previous ceilings on Bitcoin's price was about $67,000, 66, 68, something like that. And we can go back down there. But we're not going back down into the 50s, in my opinion, and certainly not to $50,000. I mean, who knows what's going to happen? We have the stock market, the worst month of the stock market is coming up. And if you don't know, historically, the worst month for the American stock markets is September, not October, even though we had the great crash in 1929 in October. The worst month for the stock market is in September. And there are a number of warning signs in the stock market about overvaluation, the AI bubble. Everyone's talking about this. Treasury yields are rising very, very fast. In other words, the amount of money you can get on US Treasury bonds is now very high, which puts pressure on stocks, on the prices of stocks. So I also wouldn't be surprised to see if we see a pretty big correction or a crash in the stock market. A correction is generally 10% down. A crash is 20% down. And if you've never lived through a crash in the stock market, it is absolutely catastrophic because people are so dependent upon their stock portfolios. I have lived through one major stock crash, which was in 2007, 2008. We saw a 50% correction in the Dow and the S&P and even more in the NASDAQ. And that is just brutal for people. It really crushes the spirit of even the most hardened investors. So I don't put that off the table. And if we have a stock market crash, Bitcoin probably isn't immune, although Bitcoin could even benefit from a stock market crash. So why has the price gone up in the last 24 hours? That's what everyone wants to know. Why? Well, all I know for sure is that there's been more buyers than sellers. Okay, and that's my pat line whenever the price goes up. More buyers than sellers. That's all I really know. But humans are story making machines. We want explanations. We want a story. Okay, let me give you a few stories that do make sense to me and could be a part of it. One, these treasury bonds. The treasury rate for 30-year bonds is something like almost like 6% now. It hasn't been this high in 15, 20 years or something like this. So this is a real problem because the US debt has to be paid back on the interest on these bonds. And so if bond rates get out of control, the US government is closer to insolvency than it is already. So yesterday, the Treasury Department made an announcement that they are going to be basically buying these 30-year Treasury bonds because there's not enough demand in the open market. So the Treasury market, the Treasury Department of the U.S. government is stepping in and saying we're going to be buying back these things. The government's going to be buying its own debt. Okay, what happens when governments buy their own debt? And they print money to buy that debt, they're basically admitting they're insolvent. Nobody wants their debt anymore. So this was this is back to the old story. The U.S. the U.S. is debt. It is it's debt insolvent. Its debt is too much, right? When I was working in Congress, the debt was $3 trillion. This week we passed $40 trillion in debt. There's no way this is ever going to be paid back. And this is why Bitcoin was basically created, is because the US dollar is doomed. The euro is doomed. The yen is doomed. The pound is doomed. All of these paper currencies are doomed. Voltaire said that all paper currencies retrace to their intrinsic value, zero. The value of paper. That's all really this paper money is worth. It's worth nothing. But what's going to happen when paper money goes to zero? What are we going to do? What's going to become valuable? Well, we're going to maybe have some artwork behind me here that might be valuable. We're going to have gold and silver that might be valuable. Land could be valuable. In a desperate situation, we could have food be valuable, seeds be valuable, alcohol be valuable. But basically, everyone sees the future is that our Bitcoin held in private, our private keys held in devices like this Trezor 7, this is really going to be the future of money. This is going to be underlying the world economy. And this is basically what everybody knows. It's just a matter of when. Like we're playing a game of musical chairs. Everyone knows the music is going to stop. The music's going to stop, but we keep walking around. We keep walking around. When is the music? I don't know, but I got my eye on a chair and then the music stops. Boom. Is everyone going to jump into Bitcoin? I think that's very possible. And when you see jumps in price like we have over the last 24 hours, I think that's what you're seeing is people seeing the Treasury Department buying their own bonds. And they're like, oh my gosh, we're closer to the end of the music than we thought. We better get a position here. We better get into this, right? So um, this is a serious development, and everyone knows the U.S. government cannot pay back its debt. It's just a matter of when is the whole charade going to end. We don't know. It could be tomorrow. It could be 10 years from now. But a a proper position in your wealth allocation will be to Bitcoin. There is no doubt about it. Everyone in the world recognizes the value of an immutable ledger, of a censorship-free asset, of an asset that can't be seized by any government. If you want to pay someone in Iran is not going to accept US dollars. They will accept Bitcoin because they understand the US government can't interfere in the transaction. They cannot reverse a transaction once they receive Bitcoin. Everyone in the world sees the value of Bitcoin. And it's a race right now to get the last million or a million and a half Bitcoin. About 96% of all Bitcoin have been created. Only 21 million will exist. Only 4% more are going to be created for the next 100 years. And I think only 3% more are going to be created over the next 6 years. So there's a race here to get the last 3% of Bitcoin. This is the race that no one is talking about. This is what the US government is doing when they're creating the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve. This is what the FBI is doing when they're seizing people's Bitcoin when it's held on an exchange. They can't seize your Bitcoin when you hold it in self custody on one of these private devices. It cannot be seized without your permission. But this is the race. Every government in the world knows that Bitcoin is going to be underlying the world economy because it's the only thing that everyone can agree upon is trustworthy. It can be based. It can be the level playing field for everyone because no government can step in and interfere with it. So it's a race. And the ones that know are racing to get as much as they can. And they want to convince all of us plebs, all of us ordinary people, that Bitcoin is dangerous. It can be hacked. You're going to be put on a government watch list. It's much safer to put your money in the stock market. There are all of these psychological operations that are going on. The cold card hack was one of them. You can't do self custody because you can't trust these things. You can't do it. You got to leave it up to the experts like BlackRock and the bank and all these things. So this is all psychological operations. The Trezor hack I just mentioned. Oh, it's a big hack. No, 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 no. You can do this. We can do this. We can secure wealth for ourselves and future generations through self custody. So don't get spooked out on this. Now, the other thing that I wanted to talk about, so just continue to hold your Bitcoin. Know that we're going to get an airdrop around September 1st, and you're going to have a choice to make. And don't get scared on these hacks, these leaks. If you're a client of mine and you followed my advice, you have gotten the best advice that I could give because it's the same advice that I use for my own setup, for my family setup to secure Bitcoin and to secure generational wealth. No client of mine has ever lost Bitcoin from following my advice. So stay the course and enjoy this rise in Bitcoin for the next couple of days because these are some of the days that keep you going, that keep the enthusiasm up from being a Bitcoiner and for remembering why are we doing this, particularly during a week when the U.S. debt just passed $40 trillion. Everyone gets reminded of the long-term play here. The music is going to stop. At one point, the whole system is going to have to shift into hard money, into sound money. We're going to have to get onto a new system. So please reach out to me if you have any questions or concerns. And a number of you have already asked me about this airdrop and about the price action and about these hacks and things like that. Just remember that it's a psychological operation against us to give up our Bitcoin. Even this BIP 110 defeat was a little bit of a psychological operation to encourage us to sell the legacy chain in order to move over to the new chain. But we don't have to do that. We can hold the old chain while also holding the new chain. We don't have to make a choice. We can keep both actually. So don't think that, the old Bitcoin is dead or is now completely compromised and we have the opportunity to ride a new chain to see where it goes. We don't have to make a choice yet. There's nothing that you have to do. In Bitcoin, remember, take your time, think it through. There's never any rush unless your device, unless you have a single wallet like the cold card and it was clearly vulnerable. So this is exciting news. Everything is still positive for Bitcoin. We're moving up from here, and in April of 2027, we're going to only be 1 year away from the next halving. So price pressure is going to be continue to build from here. Alrighty, everyone. Have a great night. Bye.